Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the We Got Game NHL Esports podcast. Today I have a very special guest. He is the netminder of the We Got Game Tropics, the Minister of Defense here, known as Vasilevskiy among the community. I just call him Vas. What's up, man? Welcome to the show.
How's it going, man? Glad to be here.
Yeah, so obviously Vash is a very vital member of the team. Without a good goalie, they wouldn't be where they are. So, one thing I want to ask is what's kind of like your backstory of your life and how has life been for you throughout this COVID pandemic?
So basically, I grew up in Windsor my whole life. I've never really moved anywhere for work. I've kind of been able to stay here. Um, I went to college here, and then I ended up getting a job here as well. So I got to stay local pretty much for everything, which was nice. I didn't really have to move out anywhere. As far as the pandemic goes, my work works through the pandemic. I'm a paramedic, so we don't get a break on that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's been interesting to see how things go and working on the front lines as far as that goes. But it's been pretty good so far. It's been over a year now, so we've kind of accustomed to it. So we're just kind of going with the flow now.
Okay. So you're known among the community as Vas or Vasilevsky. So,
Yeah.
um, I don't know if you're a Tampa Bay fan or where does that name kind of come from?
Nah. Honestly, I played defense for a while. And then I just recently decided to switch to goalie, and it kind of just worked out. And I was just kind of looking at like names to change to because I did before my name was Complexity 13, and then it was Lindstrom for maybe like a month until I switched it to Vasilevsky. And I was trying to find like a goalie of a gamer tag that not a lot of people had. So I could kind of be like that guy. Like if someone sees Vasilevsky, like I want to be known as, oh, that's the Vasilevsky kind of thing. And there wasn't very many, so that's kind of how I went with that one.
Okay. Yeah, well that makes sense. So are you just a big Vasilevsky fan, or is that just a coincidence that you just kind of?
That's kind of the way it worked out,
Oh,
and
okay,
it is like the way the name looks too. So
okay.
that's
No,
more.
it is a cool looking name. I can't lie.
Yeah,
It's also very hard to spell, but that's a
yeah.
different
It,
thing.
it it took me a while to type it out like 10,000 times to
Yeah,
figure out
yeah,
how to
hundred
do it.
percent.
But
Yeah,
I'm good now. I'm good now. I figured
yeah,
it out.
yeah. I mean, hopefully you're as good as he is in real life. So,
Yeah, that's the plan, right?
but
That's the hope.
yeah. So I just wanna. So what's kind of your backstory within gaming or just the NHL kind of gaming realm in general? Where do you kind of start?
So I started gaming like ever since I was like a little kid. I had like the Nintendo 64 and the Xbox, and kind of just worked my way up through there. Um, Ever since I got an Xbox, I always started to play NHL. Um, just playing with friends and whatnot, just playing like versus together and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't until I got an Xbox 360 that I started to play online, and that's kind of how I got into the eShell portion of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I played on Xbox up until the Xbox One for a few months, and then that's when I made the switch over to PlayStation.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I played in leagues basically as soon as I started playing eShell, like LG and VHL and all those other leagues.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's kind of just stemmed from there, and that's kind of where I met the rest of the guys that we're playing with now.
Okay. So when you're playing competitive, did you ever try a forward? Were you always a defenseman, or were you kind of mixing it up?
So when I played in the leagues, when I was playing competitively, I always played defense. I played defense my entire career.
Okay.
So I started in the VHL, which was like it's like an old league, and
Mm-hmm.
I was on the Xbox side. So I played in the AHL there for a bit. I won a Calder Cup there. That season I only had two losses the whole season with my D partner, counting
Okay.
playoffs. So we just like tore it up. Like,
Okay.
and shortly after that is when VHL merged with LG, and then I played in
Mm-hmm.
LG for a bit. I played I think 2 or 3 seasons in the AHL, and then I made it up to the NHL and won a Stanley Cup in the NHL there, and then retired shortly after that. And then I kind of like disappeared from the NHL space for a
Okay.
few years.
Yeah.
And then one day it was just on sale. I saw in the PlayStation store after I switched over to PlayStation, so all that was over on the Xbox side. Um, so over there I was known as True Complexity 75 was my gamer tag there. But then when I came over to PlayStation, I wasn't playing NHL at that point, but then one day I saw it on sale in the store and I was like, I'll get it. It was an old game that I always used to love to play, so why not? And then it kind of got me back into it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then that kind of got me the itch to go back into the leagues and whatnot. So I started playing defense again. I played like 2 or 3 seasons of defense in LG, and then I was starting to get a little bored. So I was like, I need a change. I need to do something different here. So I'd fill in every now and then for my buddies for club, just in goalie if we needed
Yeah.
one. And then I was like, I have a pretty good understanding of how to play goalie, but I've never fully committed to it. So I'm like, let's do it. Let's switch to goalie and see how it goes. And just finished my first season in LG as a goalie, and it was a successful season. So
Okay.
I think it was a good switch over.
All right. Sounds good. So that leads us to the Tropics. So from what I've gathered, you're one of the newish members to the team. So how did that come to be?
Yeah, so I've probably been with the team for a few months now. It is fairly new. So I joined the Facebook Hockey League, and me and Tropics White and Tropics Garns, we were on the same Facebook team, and I was just playing some games with them, just with the league, and they liked what they saw, so they kind of asked me if I had a team, if I would be interested in joining. Um, and then Ryan, I've seen Ryan's name around. I never actually played with him. I think, well, maybe once or twice at some point in a club game, but never like on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
But I had an idea of who he was at the time. So
Okay.
it kind of just worked out. If we didn't end up on the same Facebook team, we probably wouldn't be. I probably wouldn't be on this team right now. So just kind of the way the everything came together.
Okay. So how much of your has your like relationship grown as teammates like that quickly in the couple months you've been with them? So how's that been?
It's it's been good, man. It's been good. It's a great group of guys. We try to play daily if we can. We kind of all have, I feel like, the same mentality, so we all just kind of mesh well together. Um, we try to improve with each other, and we kind of point out each other's flaws, I would say, to get better.
Mm-hmm.
We're just trying to change things up, just trying to fine tune and tweak some things as we go along, just to make ourselves better. But it's honestly a great group of guys. I'm glad they took me under their wing and brought me into the Tropics team.
We need to get into our first sponsor segment, and I only got the Gamer Goose sample with me.
Betty Sue, I'm drenched with dew. My hands feel like they've been dipped in fondue. You're not using Gamer Goo. A non-slip lotion, a hand cream for you. You'll get energy and focus that's long overdue. Not only for gaming, but stick sports too. Could you imagine a match without Gamer Goo? Drew placed his order for Gamer Goo.
But Gamer Goo, I know Vas knows all about it. It stops sweaty hands at the source. So I say this in every episode when we're playing NHL. We need to be very precise with our movements, our dekes. I mean, Vas especially, one movement and he's sliding to the left side of the ice and it's going in on the right. So Gamer Goo stops that, makes your movements more precise, stops your hands from sweating. So pick up some Gamer Goo. And the question I want to ask you is, if you had to pick one NHL game ever that's your favorite, which game would you pick?
Oh, that's a hard question. Honestly, probably like back in the day when when like the 2K used to still make NHLs,
Yeah.
they had like these mini games and stuff that you could
Mm-hmm.
play. Like I just remember going to like my friend's house when I was in grade school, and we would just like the four of us would go and play those mini games like all night, and it was just a great time.
Yeah.
And those were just like good memories. It's not something that's in the game anymore, but those were just like the little like nostalgic things that were just awesome to play.
Yeah, so was it like every 2K, or was there just like a certain one you think back of and you're like,
Uh,
that one was it?
I don't remember a specific one because I remember back then when I would get like the EA game and I would get like the 2K game. Like every year I'd end up getting both,
Yeah.
and the 2K games kind of like ran with it for a while with
Mm-hmm.
the mini games. So I wouldn't say there was a specific one, but those mini games
Okay.
were a good time. There was a lot of time wasted.
Okay. So when we're also talking favorite games, let's say like another favorite of yours from like the new gen. We're talking like, or current gen, NHL 15 to 21. What was your kind of like favorite one based on experiences or like gameplay in general?
Experiences as far as winning, I think it was NHL 15 that I won the Stanley Cup in LG. I'd say that one is pretty up there for me because I was when I was in my prime for defense and
Mm-hmm.
it went well. Goalie, I feel like this year's goalie mechanics and just the way the goalie feels is the best this year. I feel like they've improved from last year.
Okay.
So as far as being goalie, I'd say this year's game. There are
Okay.
some weird bounces that go in and you get
Yeah.
some weird kind of animations every now and then, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just kind of the way it goes, right?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, shout out to our guys at GamerGoo for sponsoring the segment. We appreciate it. As I said, stop sweaty hands at the source. Pick up some gamer goo. The perfect anti-sweat solution for precise gamer movements, all that good stuff. So moving on here, obviously the Tropics are sponsored by We Got Game. Very it's very pretty big accomplishment to be an ESL team sponsored by a company, right? So what's kind of your experience been with We Got Game, Dave, and their kind of influence on the community and you guys?
Honestly, nothing. It's been nothing but great so far. Growing up, you're like, oh, it'd be so cool to be sponsored by a company or whatever, playing video games, whatever. So it's
Yeah.
definitely cool to be in the position to actually be experiencing that.
Mhm.
Kind of like takes you back for a minute when you first start, and it's still fun. It's still awesome.
Yeah.
Um, but like Dave and Carmelo and all those guys, they've been great so far as supporting us and getting us what we need, and um, they've been kind of like pushing us to keep continuing and going further. And yeah, so it's been pretty good so far with those guys. I got nothing but the most respect with them. They're straight up guys too. So if we do something wrong or whatever, they'll they'll correct us or tell us and
Mhm.
kind of so we can improve. Right? It's a growing relationship, and hopefully we can continue with them and keep going on.
Yeah, 100%. So, as we know, We Got Game has been involved with NHL for a few years now for sure. So, how do you think they've positively impacted the community as well as kind of pushed your influence across like different tournaments, including like let's say the one we had recently?
I think honestly, I feel like their name's getting recently a lot bigger in the NHL community, especially with this newest tournament that we had. I know they run their threes league that they have, which has been running for a few seasons, and that's been very successful in their last little bit.
One thing I think because I've only interviewed like skaters, right? I haven't interviewed a goalie yet. So
Right, right.
so you've played defense, you've played goalie and obviously you're pretty good at both. So what do you feel like the main like mindset difference is, or like what's kind of like your team influence when you're a goalie or when you're a player? Like what can you tell the guys, or how did your point of view change?
Um, Honestly, I feel like playing defense kind of helped me with the goalie. They kind of went hand in hand. So like when I'm watching defense, when I'm playing in net and I'm watching the defense go by, and I see kind of like where they are on the ice, and kind of like as long as they're a defenseman that is a good defenseman, I can kind of judge where they're going and kind of like where they're gonna push a player
Mm-hmm.
onto a different zone of the ice, or like if they're gonna attack a player in the corner, if I need to be in a certain spot in net to kind of cover off the area, or if I see a guy kind of coming in from the other side, kind of being able to judge what's coming down the ice. Um, and then with playing defense, I would definitely say positioning is a huge thing for defense. Same thing with goalie. They kind of go hand in hand. If you're in the wrong spot, just one step and the forwards by you, and then you're backtracking at that point, right?
Yep.
And then same thing with goalie. If you're a little bit too far over to the left and that guy notices that, they're gonna snipe your right side, and then it's game over.
For you, is like the mental game very important in both, or like has it changed? Like, what's your kind of mentality going in as a goalie, for now, and like how is it like compared to your mentality playing as a defenseman?
So I find a big thing with goalie. A lot of goalies when you play, they'll kind of get like fed up when a goal goes in or whatever. But you gotta pretend like it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Like you're still playing a close game. You can't just kind of fold and start letting in crazy things just because you let in a goal and then you think like confidence now whatever.
Mhm.
Once a goal goes in, you shake it off. You just keep going. Because in the end, if you're playing mind games in your head and you're down, you're just gonna let in so many goals,
Yeah.
and it just spirals from there, and then the team gets upset, and it just kind of goes all over the
Mhm.
place. So
Yep.
definitely for that. And then mentality for defense, I would say on the defensive end, definitely learning the type of entries that the other team likes to do, or like the forward that you're kind of going up center slash forward that's on your side for the most
Mhm.
part, and learning their tendencies and what they want to do. Like if you know a guy likes to speed up the boards, just kind of pinch them at the boards, or if they like to cut into the middle, try to block off that passing lane there.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, that's what I'd
Okay.
say with that.
Okay. Yeah. That's interesting. So obviously we kind of already talked about this. I don't know if it's something you would say, but like, who is your goalie comparable? Is it Vasilevskiy? Are you trying to play like him, or is there someone else you kind of model your game after?
I'd say that's pretty accurate. I've had a lot of guys say that um, that I was one of the best goalies that they've played with. I mean, I haven't played with a lot of other goalies recently because I've been playing goalie, right?
Yeah.
That's just what other guys say or have been saying. Not everybody. I mean, everybody has their bad games. I have my bad games
Yeah.
where I just can't seem to make a save or just things aren't going your way.
Mhm.
I feel like when I'm on my game, I'm definitely a hard goalie to score on. So as long as I can get in the groove and get it going, then it definitely goes really well.
Okay, yeah. I mean, yeah, what you said about the mental makes a lot of sense because when you're a goalie, right, you're not going to get a shutout every single game, and I think it's
No.
important to realize that. You're going to let in
Yeah,
goals, it's going to happen.
Yeah, like you want great stats for goalie, but honestly, at the end of the day, all that matters is the win at the end. I mean, if it's an 11-10 game and it was just a shootout kind of game, it is what it is. It's kind of the way the game goes.
Mhm.
And then there's other games where it's like a 1-0 game and both goalies were just on their game and it was just one goal that just happened to squeak in, right? But you can't let yourself get down if you let in a goal because then it just spirals from there. And
100%.
it just never ends up well.
100%. Yeah, and it's also like, yeah, it's like you said, it's important to have like your team with you no matter what, because that keeps you with it, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, getting into our next sponsor segment, this one is brought to you by Whoosh. So, as I said in every episode, we're always using our phones. All these screens, they're probably dirty. So you know what Whoosh does? It makes your electronics, your screens, all those things squeaky clean. That phone screen you use when you bring it to the washroom, it's probably dirty, my man. So you probably want to grab some Whoosh and clean that thing up. So what I want to ask you is, what I've been asking the players is, what's their go-to breakaway move or like their favorite moment? So what I'm gonna ask you is, how do you what's the best way to like read a breakaway? What's your go-to?
So I honestly hate diving at the puck.
Yeah.
I feel like that just hurts me more than it helps me. If I do it maybe like once or twice in the game just to catch them off guard if there's a defenseman right on their back, and they kind of don't have a spot to go. But honestly, it's a lot of tendencies. Just seeing like what side of the net some people just always like to shoot gloves. Some people always like to go blocker, and just kind of the angle that they're coming in on. So usually I just try to keep myself centered with the player and the puck, and then just kind of following them as they come in. And some of it will also come down to just if you know they're going blocker, then cheating a little bit that way if they've been pretty consistent with it. Like at the very last second to try to get that little bit of an edge, because sometimes even if you're centered and they shoot blocker, it can still go by you, right? So sometimes you got to take that risk and cheat that last second to get that left or right side. So it's kind of just like a last second judgment call of what you think that they're gonna go to what side, kind of thing.
All right, cool. So another thing I want to ask you, let's say, what I'm trying to think of is like, let's say like one save you made that you were like, oh, I gotta clip that, like I have it with me and I rewatch it all the time. So what's your one kind of clip moment that you rewatch and you're like, damn, I can't believe I did that?
I have a clip just in mind. It was like something that I actually did save, and I'll send it to you later.
Okay.
Actually, I think I uploaded it on TikTok. I have like 2 TikTok videos and never upload things, but it was one of those things I just put up there.
Yeah.
But so it was like a 2-1 game. There was like 10 seconds left, and they were coming down the ice. I think it was like a 2-on-1, and they threw a cross crease, like a really quick cross crease over, and my goalie did like a diving glove stick out save.
Okay.
And it just got it with the glove right on the corner of the net.
Yeah.
And when that happened, there was like 3 seconds left in the period, and we ended up winning the game 2-1. So it was like, it was a good moment.
That's like
everyone in the party just like freaked out right after that happened. It was pretty cool.
For sure, I imagine it's like that Marc-Andre Fleury save, it's like 2009 or something. Gotta clutch up. But yeah, that sounds like that's a pretty sick moment. So yeah, shout out to Whoosh for sponsoring that segment. Grab some Whoosh, clean your electronics, man. Trust me, it works. I use this thing on my phone screen all the time. I use it on my monitors. I use it on this TV. So yeah, grab some Whoosh. So one thing I want to ask is if you want to share.
Sure.
You're one of the best goalies in the world for EASHL. So what's your loadout, man? You know, let's help the other goalies out.
Loadout? All right, all right. So I run a hybrid goalie. He's 6'5". His weight is 199. And then for my traits, I use the general 2, quick recovery 2, and then one-time wonder. I kind of played around with the cross crease one and the one-time one, the specialist badge there. But I feel like the one-timer works out more for me.
Yeah.
The cross crease one I found every now and then it helps, but I feel like the one-timers, even with the cross creases, it helps a
Yeah.
bit. But I feel like honestly, like 80% of the shots are probably one-timers.
Mhm.
I'd say that's probably pretty. That's all
Yeah,
anybody usually goes for. It's
100%.
either that or they try to go to the slot and try to snipe it.
Mhm.
That's pretty much the only shots people take
Yeah.
nowadays. So I feel like it definitely helps out. And then the quick recoveries is good for the rebounds, right? I find that helps a big time. So they shoot off my pad, and then I'm able to get over to whatever side it goes over quick and get that second save if it's needed. And then the general kind of pretty much like what the name is. It kind of gives you a general upgrade of like your glove high, glove low, blocker high, blocker low. So it's kind of like a all over kind of thing. And then the weights, the weight I was kind of playing with, because if you go up a pound, down a pound, it changes your stats a little bit.
100%.
So
Which is
very
weird, but
finicky.
yeah.
So like I found a balance of like good shot recovery and a high enough speed that I can get over quick enough.
Mhm.
And the size, I just feel like 6'5" this year is just the way to go. Just being the biggest you can be.
Okay.
And then you just kind of got to deal with the 5-hole issues when
Yeah.
they come.
Yeah. So yeah, for those of you that are listening, if you want to become a good goalie, you know, look to Vas's build, because obviously he's doing something right, everybody. So yeah, look at that one. So the next thing I want to ask you is, you know, the Tropics are a crazy accomplished team. Best team in the world for NHL 20 for sure. I saw the record. 21, you guys seem like you're on track to be just as good or even better. So how does it feel to be like such an accomplished team within the like EA Sports NHL realm? I mean, you guys are pretty well known. Like, if someone goes and checks the leaderboard, they see your team name there. So how does that kind of feel for you?
It feels good, definitely. It also I feel like it puts us on at a higher standard to like when we do play a team, like it's not like they know they're gonna have a hard game,
Yeah.
but I feel like we need to perform, because if we don't, they're gonna go like out in Discords or wherever and be like, "Oh, we just beat the Tropics."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? People go, and that's just kind of the way it is when you're up towards the top of the leaderboards. Whenever you play anybody, they want to beat you to be able to say they beat you, and
Mhm.
to be able to say that they're better than you, right? That's kind of the goal. Everybody's trying to get to the top, and that's what everybody kind of strives for.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, I mean, being the best at anything in the world is a pretty big accomplishment for sure. So, yeah. So I've asked a bunch of players about this, but obviously your takes are gonna be different because you're a goalie. So when we go from NHL 21 to 22, let's say next gen, what do you want EA to do in general for gameplay and for you as a goalie to make the game maybe easier and less like odd goals to go in?
One thing that would be nice, definitely, I find for tip shots, when a puck is tipped, there's nothing you can do about it. It's just because your goalie animates the original shot,
Yeah.
and then wherever the tip goes, the tip goes. If there was a way to kind of like break that animation and
Mhm.
just try to go into a second one, that'd definitely be great to kind of react to the tip, because honestly, there's really nothing you can
Yeah.
do about the tip. You just gotta hope it hits you in the body somewhere, and then you make the save. There's no reaction you can do to it. It's just the way the game is.
Yeah.
And then honestly, I wish there was a thing. You know how you have like 5-player loadouts
Yeah.
for skaters. You have 2 goalie loadouts, which is enough, because I mean I only use 1 goalie. But I wish you could save your pads. You could have like 5 goalie pad loadouts.
Okay.
Because if you play, like, I'll play with my league team, and then I'll play with the Tropics, and then just some like whatever random games or whatever.
Mhm.
Anytime I want to change my pads, I have to redo the entire pads every time. It's such a pain. So I'd love to
Yeah.
be able to save like 3 or 4 sets of pads that I could just interchange and just be like, this is set 1, I'll use it for the Tropics. Set 2
Yeah.
is for my league games, right? It definitely saved me a lot of time from just sitting there and putting in colors every other day.
100%.
That'd be
100%.
nice.
Yeah, I mean that's an issue with EA. Like, I think about a lot too. Like, they have all these things, but you can't use. Like, one of my biggest like pet peeves is that there's like 35 celebrations, but I can only map one. You know what I mean? Like, why have all these celebrations
Yeah.
if I can only use one of them?
It'd be cool if they kind of made it to where you use the D-pad, you'd have like up, left, down, right,
Yeah.
and you pick four animation. You pick four, and then you just click which one of them, and then you can use one of the four, right? And it'll
Yeah.
give you a little bit more diversity in
Yeah.
the game. It's not the same guy doing. If he has like 8 goals, you see the same 8.
Yeah, same Sully
Like,
every
right,
time.
right.
Yeah.
So
I
that'd be
don't.
good.
Yeah, I don't understand having so many Sullys and then letting each player just use one. But hopefully they fix that next year.
Yeah.
Yeah. One more thing. Actually, two more things on the list here is one I want to ask you is so. Obviously NHL in general is a small gaming community when we compare it to let's say the other sport games like FIFA, Madden, MLB, and 2K. So I think it's a given that just because hockey is only really big in kind of one country, that it'll always be smaller than them. So, but how do you think EA could, or just in general, how we could grow esports within the NHL community, especially in ESHL? Because I know the NHL pushes like an online versus like gaming world championship stuff. So how do you think ESHL can be pushed more to the forefront?
I feel like honestly, recently, within like the last maybe 6 months to a year, it's been moving in kind of that direction because there's been a lot of NHL franchises that have been kind of going into some of these leagues and promoting like their teams. So like the Ducks have the Anaheim Ducks EASHL team, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they go into like these tournaments and they're sponsoring a lot of these tournaments. Um, Definitely, if I feel like if I don't think every team has it, like a gaming portion for the NHL. But I feel like if every team gets on board in the NHL and it kind of becomes ubiquitous and they're all running these tournaments and sponsoring and doing all that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that could definitely help push it. And with WGG definitely starting to run these tournaments, that'll definitely help push it as well. I feel like the more tournaments and the more exposure of any kind that we can get out there, definitely help accelerate
Yeah.
all this and get it into a better spot. Uh, So I know it'll be good. I feel like honestly, just with a little bit that I've seen with WGG with what they've done, I think it'll go in a good direction. I think it's obviously going to take time. Like you said, it's a niche market. It's only like certain areas of the world. It's not
Yeah.
like FIFA where everybody plays FIFA, plays soccer, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the whole world, it's more widespread. But I feel like we could definitely get it. Maybe not up to the FIFA level, but we could definitely get it to where it's definitely recognized
Yeah.
a lot more.
100%. That's the hope for every ESHL player. As a goalie, I don't know how much. Like, have you played some Sixes goalie too? Is that a thing you've done?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, like prior to Tropics, that's all I would play is
Okay.
Sixes. So it's probably like a good like 50-50 split between
Okay.
Sixes
Cool.
and
Cool.
threes.
So what is the difference between being a goalie in Sixes and being a goalie in threes? Because in Sixes, I feel like you're looking out a lot more for different stuff, but in threes, it's kind of you know what's gonna happen, but you also like sometimes it just goes in. So what's kind of the
Yeah.
difference for you?
Honestly, for threes, I find goalies get torched a lot more in threes
Yeah.
just because there's so much more open ice and there's so much more room for the skaters to work with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so they're able to get those crazy moves off, and if that one guy pinches improperly, then it just creates a 2-on-1 or a 2-on-0, and
Yeah.
so there's a lot more breakaways and a lot of 2-on-1s, 2-on-0s. So it's definitely good practice for that kind of stuff. And then Sixes, it's a lot more, I'd say set plays. I mean, threes has set plays too, but
Mhm.
Six is a lot more rotation from a lot of teams. Some teams are very good at rotation in threes,
Yeah.
but that's kind of more the bread and butter in Sixes if it's a good team that you're going up against. But for that, it's a lot more of the cut plays. Um, you'll have the odd breakaways here and there depending on who your defensemen are. But it's a lot more of the 1T. Like a lot of teams like to take the high slot 1Ts and all those, working the puck behind the net and just kind of dishing it to the guy out in front.
Mhm.
So yeah, there's pros and cons on both ends and
Okay.
different styles of shots that you face on both ends of the sixes and threes. So
Okay, yeah, makes sense. All right, so my last question for you is I asked this to Ryan or Cody too is when we think of the Tropics right now with We Got Game, where do you want to see the Tropics, let's say NHL 27, NHL 32, like where do you want to see the Tropics and where do you want to see your relationship with We Got Game go?
honestly, I feel like with anybody that gets involved with something like this, you want to be at the point years down the line where you're at the top and anybody anywhere hears or is in the community or even outside the community, people know who the Tropics are. Like like just kind of just like Optic. Like there's people that don't even play the games that know who Optic are.
Yeah,
It'd be
100%.
cool to get to the point where like people don't even play NHL, but they know who the WGG Tropics are and they know who
Okay.
WGG is. So definitely, obviously, getting to that level is kind of the ultimate goal.
Okay.
But only time will tell. Definitely, I feel like we got the right group of guys here as far as our team and
Mhm.
the WGG team as well, and kind of the way everything has been working out lately. And I feel like it could be definitely a recipe for success. It's just how far do we want to take it? And if I feel like if everybody's committed to it and sticks with it, I feel like we could definitely make quite a big impact on the NHL community.
Yeah, 100%, man. I mean, you guys have only been on an upward trajectory since especially signing with We Got Games. So I'm excited for the future too, man. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good for sure.
I appreciate you coming out and joining our team here through
Yeah,
your school, and hopefully, even after, we can
yeah,
continue our relationship and go forward with
yeah.
it.
That's the plan, man. But yeah, other than that, I mean, just want to say thanks again to Vas for joining me here. He's a busy guy, as he said. He's on the front lines, and drop a comment thanking him for that because without him, we'd probably be struggling a little bit more. So I appreciate you for that, man.
And no worries, man. I'm just doing my part. Honestly, I love the job, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. And honestly, it, yeah, I don't know what I was gonna say
Yeah,
there.
yeah, it's all good, man. It's all good. We're good. But yeah,
Yeah,
shout out Vas for coming on again. He's gonna be between the pipes for every We Got Game tournament. So look for him. Follow We Got Game on all social medias at We Got Game _corp. The Tropics, we're gonna start posting on social media at WGGTropics on Twitter. So check them out too. Yeah, but other than that, we also got our season 4 league running. So look for those streams Wednesdays, most likely on our Twitch channel. But yeah, thanks all for tuning in. We'll see you in the next episode. Everyone, have a good day or night when you're listening. Take it easy.
thanks, guys.